What if the solution to the tyranny you see on the planet isn't to fix what we have, but to actually build the world you want to see and we all want to see together? That seems to be the answer. Hey, everyone, welcome to Freedom Lovers Show. I'm your host, David James Rodriguez, and we are building a voluntary world, one relationship at a time. And I'm really honored with our guest's appearance today, Mr. Mike Collumb, doing some amazing things on the earth. I would say one of the key visionaries and someone I have a lot of respect for because he's doing it and creating the world he wants to see. And he's helping other people do it throughout the state of California and the country and probably the world. This strategy I like to call the exit and build strategy I got from some of the guys down in Texas. And I think that's the solution, is to create and build rather than complain and whine and beg for our freedoms. When you know that you own your body, you know that your rights and freedoms come from your humanity, God or nature, or something greater than a piece of paper called a corporation or public, state, city, county, federal government. So very excited to know that we're going to have a cool conversation here. So before I try to say a bio, which I'm not able to fulfill because you're doing great stuff, Mike, why don't you share with the people a little bit about your background and maybe kind of up to what we're doing right now with starting clinics, which is very exciting for us all.
You bet. So with my background, I'm a mechanic. I came out of the air conditioning, electrical fields, contractor, my whole life for the most part doing those things. My wife and I have always owned a couple businesses at a time. We currently have 3 or 4. Actually today we got 4 or 5, but I'm a business owner, right? And I've been electrical contractors, mechanical contractor. We own a winery. A lot of diversification in there, right? And I've always thrived to do that, to find the thing that I love to do, my passion, right? Now that I don't have to work for somebody else for many, many years, I always get to find my passion. Well, the passion gets hum and drum, putting up with their regulations and their garbage, right? And the taxation that's just, overboard theft today, and where it's gone from, being acceptable to being, I'm sorry, it's way too much. And it's not going to stop, right? And Vanessa just told me something. She read it to me, I think last night or the night before. And in June, I think they're raising another 5% of our gas, going up 5 more percent, the gas tax in California. Because we as the state of California, we're pretty smart, and we went ahead and voted to raise our taxes. But not only that, but to let them charge more taxes whenever they voluntarily want to. So when they say, hey, we need some more money to not fix our roads or do those things, just to put it somewhere else in some little program that they want to, get more votes from. That's what they do. So anyway, enough of that. So I'm putting along, and, probably 3.5, 4 years ago now, Vanessa comes to me, and I have 9 children, and I've got 15 grandchildren, and most of them are right here in our community in Nevada County, Placer County, and Northern California. And Vanessa came to me and said, hey, honey, we need to leave California. And this was like, yeah, sure. I'm not going to happen, and she came back a few times with that. And it's just like, finally I kind of, with some things that transpired, we were going to open a brewery and spend a bunch of money. County approved the stuff that we're going to do. We spent a bunch of money, architectural engineering fees. And then they came back and they did a little bait and switch on us and said, oh, well, we want you to do this. And it added about $1.5 million onto the project. So we scrapped it. And that's about when I said, okay, honey, let's look somewhere else. So we went all over the place, ended up finding something we loved in South Dakota, bought it, came home, put our ranch up for sale. I'm retired at this point, right? I'm a contractor, and I'm saying I'm pretty excited. I'm done contracting. I've been ho-hum for a long time doing that, and just kind of going through the motions and putting up with it. And it's like I'm done, and we're getting ready to move. And she comes to me one day and says, honey, we need to build a grocery store. And I'm thinking, hey, the little town in South Dakota was called Bellevue, and I think, hey, they need a grocery store there. And she goes, no, here in Penn Valley. And it's like, no, that's not going to happen. It's like, spend all this time looking and thinking about what we're going to do. We're moving. We just bought a place, and we're selling our place. And it's like, no. And then, she won. That's enough pressure on that. So, so I built her a grocery store. Yeah. And it was very interesting. And we knew right away before we even did that we wanted it to be different. We wanted it not to be the same, basically jurisdictionally bound, company that we've always had and been in. And she, at that point in time, she tells me that Vanessa tells me about this thing called a PMA that she's known about for about a year. And it's like, when were you going to tell me this? Why, it's like, why don't I know about this already? And so she told me about it, and I started researching it, and I got a hold of my mentor, and then we talked back and forth a bunch, and we put it all together. And it, you know how when you learn something new, you look at that and you start thinking, okay, so you read about it, you start knowing more, and then when you own it, that's when it's that point, right? It's that little light bulb goes off, and it's like, dang, I got this now, and I knew what I could do with it. So we went ahead and started the grocery store as a PMA. And right away, as that PMA, we knew that we have a winery down 2 miles from our property here where the store's at. And we
And
knew
just
at
so you
that
know,
point,
for the new people, a PMA is a private member
Yeah.
association, which is different than being a public business, which is very powerful and exciting, which we'll talk about later. But go ahead with the
Yeah.
story so people know.
yeah. So in our PMA, well, in the grocery store, our winery's down the street. And I could have taken my winery license because I've got an ABC license, which is an alcohol beverage control license for California. I could have taken and bonded this facility for not 150, 200 bucks. And I would have been able to sell alcohol here. I didn't do it for two reasons. First one is because we're a private membership association and we don't need to. And the second one is because I wanted to educate my local district attorney, the courts, and then ultimately back into the ABC in California. And then to give them the understanding and let them understand and know that they don't have the authority to be in our business. So we're in process with that right now. Everything's going smoothly. It's taken longer than I wanted to. There's just politics in it, and my attorney and this the way it's working out. It's taking a little longer. So yeah, but we're gonna have that done probably in May. We'll be through it, and then it'll be the new precedents, new court case precedents for PMAs across the country, right? And what's nice about this is when we win a case of any kind of statute, it doesn't matter what it is regarding, because it all boils back down to the rights that are given to us inside of the Constitution. And we have a right to have unlimited private business transactions, and that's what that is. Unaffected, unaltered, no jurisdiction from the government and your neighbor. So that's right there for us to do. So, and that's one of the big pieces and keys how we run a private membership association, using that doctrine inside of our Constitution. So, so we built the grocery store. She opened it. Vanessa, back right when COVID hit, her and her friends, they started, her friend Kimberly, they started a thing called Free Nevada County. And in that, what they did was they went in, they basically went to the BOS meetings, the Board of Supervisor meetings, and they protested the closures, and they talked to and encouraged the businesses in our community to stay open, not to do the mandates, not to close down, not to worry about masks, not to worry about vaccinations when they came out, all those things. So they didn't like Vanessa at all, right? So the second day she's open, they're at our door, and I'm in the Bay Area working, so I'm not here to help. And her and Kimberly are at the store, and they're hanging out, and they came in, and Vanessa's at their cash register, and she sees these masks come in, right? And so right in the front of our door, it says, basically when she opened, the day she opened, she got this sign, this beautiful woman with a beautiful smile, and it says, for your health and ours, or for your happiness and ours, no facial nudity is required. So no mask allowed.
Nice.
Right. Yeah. So
no mask allowed. Great.
And that's Vanessa, right? So no mask allowed, period. And so she went out there to say, hey, you guys can't come in with a mask. And then she recognized the lady of being one of the health department ladies. And she said, yeah, you guys can't come in here at all. And there's a sign on the gate that says that if you're a government employee and you're here in government business, you're trespassing. So she told her, you're trespassing right now. And the lady goes, well, I need to talk to you, and you need to sign this cease and desist order. And Vanessa said, no, I don't have to sign it. I'm not going to. I don't want it. Don't leave it here. And then you need to vacate the property. And she goes, well, I really need to talk to you. So Vanessa, being who she is, she goes, well, if you join the membership, I'll go ahead and talk to you. And the lady didn't understand what that really was and kind of got irritated by it. So then she says, well, she started saying stuff to Vanessa. And Vanessa at this point in time says, you have two choices. First choice, you can leave on your own right now. Second choice, I'm calling the sheriff and having you arrested. So figure out what you want to do quickly, because it's going to happen. So they left, and that was last March, and a year ago this March, and they've never been back. They won't be back. She explained to him in that process that we're a private membership association, and that we don't have public people here in our operation, and the county's jurisdiction stops in the public. They don't get to come into the private. And it's that simple. So I use this analogy, and it's just kind of use the simplicity of what it entails. If you have, let's say, Vanessa and I are over your house, Dave, and we're having dinner, and we've got a friend of ours, Joe, comes over, and we're having a glass of wine, and Joe brings in a case of wine. And out of that, we take and taste a couple of bottles, and I really like one of them. And I asked Joe, hey, Joe, can I buy one of these bottles for me? It's delicious. And Joe says, yes, absolutely. And we make that transaction. I buy it from Joe. I don't need a license. Joe sells it to me. He doesn't need a license to sell it to me. Why? Because it's a private business transaction. So we make that transaction in the private. And the state, when I say the state, it's federal, state, local government, they have no authority in that transaction, period. So when you compile a private business association or private membership association, and you pull the members out of the public and put them in the private, that is just exactly like us being in your home at your dinner table. And you can put it in New York City and do the same thing. And if I own a PMA in New York City in a building and I've got 1,000 people in there and everybody is a member of my association, everybody there can buy a bottle of alcohol from me without me having a license. And that comes right out of our Constitution. It was done, in fact, in Texas and Oklahoma and also in Utah. I think currently still today in Utah, and there's probably still a few in their buying clubs or alcohol clubs in Texas and Oklahoma. So right after Prohibition came out, and alcohol was then again legal in Texas, they went to all the different places except for like 48 states said, no, we're going to be dry. So those restaurants that were in those dry counties said, no, that's not going to happen in here. So they started PMAs and they sold alcohol to their members all the way through that whole time, all the way up until today. Last time I checked, I use the same Constitution as they do. So, I'm protected here in California, just as Oklahoma and Texas. So, that's what we ran with. We went that direction, knew that we would be protected with that and feel very confident in that. We took in probably about a month and a half, 2 months into this deal, we had a sting from the alcohol beverage control. And I think really what happened is our county got mad because they had no authority. So they knew that we were selling alcohol. So they called them up. They came out, this bonehead comes out and he pretends like he's going to move to Penn Valley, introduces himself to Vanessa. She takes him through the store, tells him what the private membership was about, tells him he's got to join the membership, all this stuff. He comes up with a 1 bottle of wine, checks out after he signs our membership agreement that states that he, in fact, knowingly and willingly pulls himself out of the public, removing all of his rights of the public, putting himself in the private, and that he can't use anything to entrap us and or investigations, nothing but law enforcement, all those things are gone. He wrote away and signed away his rights to be in his position. He got the bottle of alcohol, he took it back to the ABC in Sacramento, put in the evidence locker, came back a couple weeks later and did it one more time. So, and that I'm saying this for a couple of reasons. One, of what we're going to do with this situation, and then two, how important it is to make sure that in a private membership association, everybody that comes to the door signs that piece of paper and is a member, because you don't know what their intentions are. Right. So you want to make sure and do that. And there's, like with alcohol, that's a risky thing, right? It's a high profile, risky thing. I think that for doctors, it's a little, depending what they do and where they're at, it's a little bit high risk profile stuff. Our educational systems are a little bit like that too. Sometimes it depends on what you're doing, right? So in that, make sure to always do that. And it's mandatory, get everybody to sign your PMA.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow. If you guys are catching some of these gold nuggets, thank you that you're dropping. Very powerful. So you talk about the grocery store, having a good contract set up so that anybody comes in is able to be excluded from any liability what they can use. And I think why people, I really appreciate what you're doing, and why I do at least, is that you're building health clinics. And that was very exciting, because I know some other doctors, dentists, people who are either let their license expire or they're actively rescinding their license, because this whole license stuff, as some of you guys know out there, like the right to travel and a driver's license, that's all because of commerce. And so I've been exercising that for a few years and getting in trouble because the cops don't know the law, and I'm learning, and I don't have the capital to hire someone for 20 or 50K yet. So I'm doing my own paperwork, but it all comes down to the contract. Yeah. And knowing who we are, which is we are the living man, the living woman, son of creator or source, or whatever you believe, even evolution or humanity, whatever it is, but not son of the corporation, not son of USA Inc. And that's what they're trying to make us do with income taxes, property taxes. And so humanity is finally at the point where this is unacceptable. And we promote peaceful, consensual, voluntary solutions. What are they? One is exiting and building. And so I think we're going to have a great conversations continually through your leadership. But so how would you talk about the health clinics and the creation of those? Because naturally health is one of our highest needs and security. And so the state knows that. And so they require all these licenses and all this financial revenue that they're getting and obligations and contracts. It's like, okay, well, once I found out about the health clinics, how did you start those? Or maybe some of the, there's so much, some of the lessons you learn. Why don't you start at the beginning, how you started it, but then like how other people can start it? Because ultimately that's what's of interest for me and some of my friends is we can get the food and we can get, you know, the water and even the power sometimes, but like healthcare and like, you know, don't the hospitals have all this great technology and they got surgeons and all these things? Like, yeah, but they're like killing people as well. You know, they are jabbing them and ventilizing them and like remdesivir stuff. And like, these people are like, these hospitals are killing people. So to go to the hospital is to put ourselves at risk. And you created a solution is to build our own health clinic or build our own hospital. So maybe talk about how you started that and maybe how other people can learn, you know, in a few points, but take as much time as you got. The floor is yours.
You bet. All right. So kind of how that transpired is Vanessa, my youngest son, broke an elbow. And then right after he got his cast off, 3 weeks later, broke his other elbow, had to have an operation on that one. And we ended up in the hospital with him. And it was a pretty good deal. I mean, it's like, we didn't have to have him tested. We got through that. And basically when he ended up in the room with the anesthesiologist, he looked down, saw Carter, and he pulled out his mask. He said, "No child has ever seen an adult with a mask on." And that's how cool it was, right in our hospital local, which was pretty cool. So obviously put them out, put their masks on like they're supposed to, like they always have, forever, right? But it was the intent of what was going on with that. So about a month after that, Vanessa ends up in the hospital. And I was probably like one of the last people in a hospital as a visitor unvaccinated. And the week after, we had some people that live in Nevada County. The husband got COVID, ended up in the hospital. Basically, they, killed him. And she had to say goodbye to him on a Zoom call. So
same thing. My friend, the same thing. Terrible.
That fired me up and it put me in motion I was already writing PMAs at that point in time and helping people, but then that put me on a track for healthcare. And we came home from that event and we're home for a little bit. And Vanessa, she has a really, really good, strong team of people local here. And she put a word out and she opened a new group called the Healing Hub. And then with that, I mean, she's got a whole bunch of people that just kind of jumped on it. And they're basically all the different, people in our community that have any kind of healthcare experience whatsoever. There's nurses, there's doctors, there's chiropractors, there's, every single discipline you can imagine sits inside that group. And I'm thinking about what's going on. It's like, and we're traveling a lot every 2 weeks. For the most part, Vanessa and I, and my youngest son, we take off for like a week. And we go and we speak about the Renegade Nation, the Healing Hub, and the PMAs around the country. And I'm thinking, well, what if we're down the road and we get something happens to Carter and we got to go to the hospital and they're going to make us get vaccinated to take him in there. They're going to make him be vaccinated. And I said, no, that's not going to happen. So we started thinking about the Healing Hub being a national thing, taking it to everybody and going throughout. So I started it with nurses that have been fired and doctors that have been fired for not being vaccinated. And we've got a bunch of them around the country operating, and their initial spot, their niche was to heal COVID. And I had a few of them just unbelievable amount of work they put into it and effort in building this little network, huge network of what they're doing. Some of them, one of the girls in Oregon has like 3 or 4 nurses that are with her now, and they're all helping people, right? So, and the whole idea of what they're doing is they're doing it right out of their home, and they can take their talent to the door of somebody else. They can pick up their meds for them, their prescriptions. They can bring them their supplements that they need, all these things that they can have to help them be helped. And then it doesn't have to be just COVID, right? It's for anything at all. So they built this network. We built this network across the country. Got a bunch of people in it. It's worked out great. And then we expanded it to existing clinics, right? That are already there, and put them in our network and saying, okay, here's a Freedom Clinic, and we're trying to get Freedom Clinics around the country. And the main purpose is to put them into the Renegade Nation so people know where they're at. So they can go on the Renegade Nation. They can travel, or even in their own town, sometimes they need that extra help because they don't know that doctor. That's a Freedom doctor. And for right now, I mean, in California, you don't really get to go to the hospital unless you're vaccinated, right? Especially as a visitor, right? And most of them are making the actual patient be vaccinated too. In Colorado, it's shame on Colorado. They actually made a law that stated that if the person wasn't vaccinated, the hospital and the clinic do not have to take them.
Oh my God.
Do not have to take them. Made a law. So
Oh my
we have a
God.
number of states that are just totally communist with our medical. It's getting bad, and it's going to get worse. And we'll talk about something else that's coming up here in a minute.
Yeah.
So with that piece of it, we had an opportunity. I've got a few locations that have actually started to raise money, and they're building clinics. And there's stretched throughout the country. Right now we're working. I've got a friend of mine and we're putting together basically what it's called is called functional photonics. And it's the main part of that's going to be a modality machine called the Firefly. And one of the other things that we're putting in there, the way we set up our private membership associations today, if somebody wants to, we can set up. Most of what we do today is going to be a church-based ministry, right? That's how we run it. And if you want to tax, association to a 508c1a, that's basically the way to do that. And we can also do a taxable entity. But we also have the ability to take and wrap this a little bit even more, and we can attach basically a research IR on it, and be able to allow doctors and clinics to go back into the stem cell research and stem cell production and helping people with stem cells. So that's one of the modalities we're going to be putting out there as well. And right now it's been illegal in the United States since right middle COVID, a couple of years now probably. Somebody understood that that might be able to help COVID, and they took it away. Yeah, so that's where we're at. We're doing this completely 100% legal, with no authority of the government being able to tell us we can or can't do this. The things are in place already, and all we got to do is take and sign people up into it, and put them in a PMA, and then put them in the other portion of this trust piece, and we're good to go. So, and also in that, what's really cool is that it doesn't matter if the doctor has lost his license at all. We can operate doctors in businesses across the country without a license. And it's very powerful. Nurses without licenses. I don't care what business you're in across the board. If you have a professional license and you've lost it because you haven't been vaccinated or whatever is going to happen, we can help you without a license still produce your job, your product, whatever you're doing. So those are available, and it's pretty cool. It's extremely powerful. It's extremely affordable to do those things, and it's quick and easy, and it's amazing the protections we get from that, and what the things that we've never been taught, right? And the things they've hidden from us. And like a 508, you look at almost all the churches in the United States, they dupe them into being a 501 because that's the only one they tell them about. They don't tell them about a 508. And if you read down in the code, you'll see the 501 code, and as you read down, you'll read all these different things, but they don't tell anybody about that. And even if you elect to be a 508 and you do that with a fax and you fax it back, they still send you this document that tries to get you to be a 501 because they want to control you. And that's how they do that. They control you with a 501, and they do not with a 508. So effectively, I'll talk for a couple minutes about what a PMA is. And
Sure.
also, actually, we'll go back to the healing centers really. So the name of the organization is called the Healing Hub. And our intent is to put, modalities and clinics and hospitals across the country. So we have a big goal of buying hospitals, and at some point we'll have a couple of flagships across the country, and be able to have like a cancer center or heart center, some kind of big production piece in one of those hospitals, and then have them maybe on the East Coast and West Coast or North and South. And we'll get that moving at some point in time as we grow in strength and numbers, right? And we need to be strength, and that comes with numbers with lots of us out there. So one of my goals is to have more than 1 million PMAs here in the next year or two. And we're doing everything we can to make that happen. We're growing our networks rapidly, and things are happening with that, right? So it's a dream, but it's becoming a reality, right? And the thing is that when they took away our healthcare, our medical freedoms, that was them basically saying we're in war. Yeah, because you can't take and handle that. And what's going on is that their goal is 100% vaccinated, right? They want everybody vaccinated. And they'll do anything they can to make that happen. And in fact, you've got people are walking around today in despair because they're not letting their children do things. They're not doing things that they normally would because they don't want to get injured, because they don't want to be put in a position to get vaccinated if they need to go to hospital. and the
Mhm.
hospital is going to put you in that position. Yeah, which is horrible. So little tidbit come up this week. Our wonderful Joe, he signed, basically changed our treaty with the UN, and he's going to put the WHO in charge of all of our medical for every person in the United States.
Mm.
And with that being done, the guy who runs that program, his mandate is 100% vaccinated across the entire world.
Mm.
So, and how they're going to do that, they'll do it with UN peacekeepers and probably with National Guard. And at some point, they might come to your home doing that. So
Right.
we need to stand up against that, and that needs to happen quickly. The vote is on the 22nd of this month. And there's, if anybody's interested, they could text me, or actually best way to do it would be an email to mike@thepmateam.club. And I can put them on a list, and then basically that list will just want to expand it as much as we can, short time frame, and then be able to get it over to this guy, so he can take and present that to Congress. So in times of the essence on this piece, and it's a dangerous spot for us to go down.
Right.
And we know who and how they are, and how their brains work, and we pretty confident they're going to pass it, right?
Mhm.
So unless
Right.
there's enough pressure somehow along the way, it'll become law.
Right.
And which is unfortunate, because that they're going down a slippery slope and a path that's not good for us as a nation. Because the last thing I want to see ever happen is people getting in gunfights and people having to raise arms. That's not what we need to do as a country.
That's right.
We need to
Yeah.
not do that. We need to fight, with ways that are strong and ways that are smart. And the way we do that is they were gracious enough to give us our new parallel society, right? With the things
That's
they've done, they put us 100 million, 150 million people in this position that we don't want to be with their garbage anymore. And like you said in your monologue at the beginning, we talked about, hey, go along, don't do what they're doing, don't fight them. Fighting them today is worthless. Nothing's going to happen. They're going to cheat their way, lie, steal, whatever they want to do is what they do. But we can create our new economy and our new parallel society, and we've done it, and it's working.
That's right.
And now our job is to let all 100 million people know that we have a solution, right? And we have trillions of dollars in this group of people. We have every single business that's imaginable in this 100 million people. Everything, every single thing we could do is in here.
That's right.
In these people. So we don't need them. And when they take something away, we just build something new. Today we have new alternative banking systems popping up. We've got them right now. You can go on my website and you can enter into one today. We have new, basically this has been around for a long time. You're going to see healthcare as we know it is going to be shrinking. We have so many doctors and clinics that are going cash. They're getting away from the insurance companies because they're crooks. They're getting away from the Medicare because they're crooks. And in that, as they create this system, we have a thing called MediShare, right? Health MediShare. It's a medical sharing program. Been around for a long time. There's multiples out there. Well, in the renegadenation.org website, we have our own now, and it's called the Healing Hub, the Renegade Nation Healing Hub, and it's a MediShare program. We have what I use is you're on Zoom today. We are here, and I don't use Zoom anymore. I have my own, and it's called the Renegade Nation Video Hosting. We have a video platform, our own conferencing system that's blockchain encrypted. So in this recording, in our production here, Nancy Pelosi, her cronies in China don't have any effect on it. They can't see it. They can't steal what we're talking about. They can't see anything we're doing. It's all blockchain encrypted and it's protected. And it's the same price as Zoom. So it's just one of those things. As they start messing up our stuff and taking things away from us, we just need to adjust, do a little sidestep, and move forward with a better product, which is what everything's going to be. Ultimately, everything's going to be a better product, right?
That's right.
It really is. And you think about, okay, so I'm not vaccinated. I will never be vaccinated. My wife and my children will not be vaccinated, and I'll die with my gun empty below me on the ground, right? If somebody tries to force that to happen, it's not going to happen.
Right. There's tens of millions and hundreds of millions of people. Absolutely. The people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's our new tribe, bud. That's who we are. And that's what separates us. And if you think about it, in my mind, in the way I feel and look at things, we are now left with 100 million of the smartest people left in here in our country, right?
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah.
that it really is. And I'm just not to dish you if you've been vaccinated. I know a lot of people
Right.
have been coerced and demanded by their employers and demanded by their children or their mother and father, or somebody has put them in a position to be, coerced into being vaccinated. And that's a shame, right? But we still want you on our side. So mine isn't to judge, mine's to heal and to help. And we have things that can help with that. We can detox a portion of that vaccination. I've got my father and one of my best friends both got them, and my dad had a stroke and a heart attack, and my best friend had a heart attack. And that happens, right? And it was on the booster for each one of them, just a couple of days after their first booster. People are dying all over the place, and
Right.
it's something that they sweep below the rug, and it's like nobody cares about it. And you're right, they don't. The mainstream doctors, the allopathic medicine system, they don't care about it. They don't. They want us all vaccinated. So shameful, but that's where we're at today, and it's not going to change unless we make that change.
Right. Well, I have resonated with so much that you have to say, Mike. I love hearing all the stuff that you're saying. This is like part of like one of the missing things, because I'm actually going to an Exit and Build Summit here in Texas next weekend. So I'm going to be able to maybe connect some people and figure out some ways to accelerate this, because I agree this is going to get worse before it gets better. I do thank them for helping us create the society that we want. And to remind everybody out that this thing has been building for a few generations. The education system, financial system, medical system, the communication system, food system. It's been building because these hyper wealthy intergenerational predator psychopaths have nothing else better to do than how to enslave people, because they're living in fear and they're worried that someone else is going to enslave them. And so you and I, we are the visionaries, and the people watching this, you know that you are the lights coming into the darkness, and we're going to shine light on what's happening, a little bit on the problem, but more on the solution, which is your garden is bad over here. So I'm not going to try to change your garden. I'm going to plant my own garden far away from you. And it's going to be better. And we're going to have more customers. And the Buckminster Fuller quote, which is, you never change reality by fighting against it. You have to create a new model that makes the old model obsolete. And I think these schools, these grocery stores, these tyrannical hospitals, and all these agencies eventually are going to be shrivel up like a raisin on the vine, and they're gonna just go away because people are not participating. Just like Blockbuster went away because Netflix was better, and now Netflix and Disney Plus are getting crazy, so people are leaving them, and other people are starting platforms. And I'm excited to hear that you have a video platform. I clicked around a little bit in the renegadenation.org. I recommend people go there. Some really cool stuff happening, and you're obviously a visionary man on the earth. But one of my questions, just to clarify so that people know, it sounds like you created like a virtual network of professionals, and somehow you've connected them, and if they need people need their services, they can reach out to them, and you're going to eventually direct that to physical buildings, and or you have physical buildings now. Is that what's going on? Like, you got the people, and now you have clinics you're renting out or purchasing, and then
so we have clinics that are freedom clinics in place already we're already in business, right? And we just know where they are and what we're doing with them. So that's already happening, right? And there's thousands of them across the country that are already like that, right? So we know of these people, and then we put new people, new doctors, clinics in place that are there. We put them into PMAs, and then we actually have people out there building them. So with our functional photonics new system, and we're looking at probably 20 here, hopefully 20 starts by the end of the year, and these are going to be all around the country, and they're going to have a bunch of different modalities in them. They're going to be really good, and they're all going to be cookie cutter, so they all look the same. So you can walk in and feel as comfortable no matter where you're at. It's a duplicatable model, that whole piece of it. So that's we're looking at that being a hit, and the things we're going to do inside of it are going to be amazing. With the things that we can do today with our technologies, once you get out of that allopathic system, that piece of medicine that really doesn't work, which is called pharmaceuticals, because that's what they all are. They're all drug pushers for the most part. And they work to get you on drugs, and they work to keep you on drugs, and work to give you extra drugs until you die, and then you become a lifetime customer, right? We want to be able to heal people, right? And that's what a functional medicine does. It heals people, and it's amazing. And I'm not a doctor. I've spent time. I don't get sick. I've been sick in many years, and but I break stuff and I get stitches, right? So that's my experience in hospitals. So and people always ask me, you want to do something? Hey, who's your doctor? I said, I don't have one. So why not? I don't need one. So and that's the way it goes, right? But it's so amazing to see our system today with functional medicine. And actually, because my mother has been sick her whole life until she died, and I have friends that have been sick their whole lives. And to see the change in lives when you actually treat the problem rather than mask it with pharmaceuticals, it's unbelievable to see people actually being healed. And we're talking healed from all kinds of things, right? It's pretty amazing and very, very neat to see that.
That's right. Yeah, it is. And I think that is the future too. Healing centers. We've been psychologically traumatized, emotionally, physically, and before we can have the great, beautiful world, and it's already a great world in some ways, but there's just these mega corporations that have been dominating us for so many decades, and so we're coming out of the darkness because they had to do this. And this whole scamdemic and locking down businesses, for years and making these small businesses go out. It's like, I couldn't believe it. We were down there in Santa Cruz and like they were closing down the beaches, and it's like people are accepting this. So it's kind of a state of humanity of what's happening. Like, wow, this has been going on, and these are the dominant players. Okay, these are the free players, and so we're coming out of this. My question is, what do you need to start a clinic? Let's say you have a blank slate and you have a room full of 50 people who are just as irate as you were and I was when I saw my friend, family member, deceased over the Zoom, and like, this is not okay, right? This is like the forced jabs in the schools. It's like, this is not okay. So what can we do? And you have like a really powerful thing that's working and it's very attractive. So what is required, whether in terms of capital, manpower, space, or do you have any of those?
Oh yeah, you bet.
Identified, or
the basic,
what generally, if without?
Yeah, to do any kind of, the neat thing about a clinic is that clinic can look any way you want it to. It can have different modalities in it. Some can be expensive, some can be pretty inexpensive. Some can treat really well and not be a lot of money. There's hyperbaric chambers, they can be pretty pricey, right?
Yeah.
There's ozone therapy machines like a Hawkett, or there's all kinds of different things. There's vibration plates. There's sound and vibration frequencies that heal. There's the Firefly. I mean, there's sauna. Just a dry sauna helps pull toxins out of your body, right? So all these things, your clinic can look any way you want to, and that's really neat that people have the flexibility to do that. And we have a bunch of PMAs in place around the country. We have a farm, and in the farm, they're building these little things in there with a dry sauna and a wet sauna, and they have a swimming pool. They're healthy therapy, kind of things. A lot of them are massage therapists, cranial therapists, acupuncturists, all kinds of different modalities with that. Chiropractors, big one to do the same thing. So you can start it with any kind of square footage you have, from small to large. Our functional photonics are 20 by 50. Everything fits in there. It's kind of like a package, a checklist thing for the different rooms and what you want to put in there. The Firefly is kind of the mandatory piece that goes around it. We have a sauna that's part of it. Typically, IV therapies is very popular and very, very productive today for us, for it to have different IVs depending on what's wrong with you and to help you throughout any kind of thing that you've got for the most part. And then all the way up into stem cell treatment center, right? So those things are all easy. Everything can fit in that 20 by 50 room inside of that. And you don't need that big spot. It could be bigger, it could be smaller. The checklist that we have is like, here's what we've seen works. Here's what this one does, what this one doesn't do. This, down the line, just checklist it all the way to the bottom and say, here's your package, this is what you want. And then we just put you in touch with manufacturers and you buy all your products that you want to wherever you go. You build your own site out. So cost wise, I mean, to have a Firefly, they're in the $27,000 range. To do an IV therapy setup, maybe another $5,000 to get everything you need for that. Maybe a sauna, another $5,000 for that. So you could be up in about $50,000 if you have a space already. $50,000 would get you started and get you running. And the cash flow on that and the Firefly and those other modalities is going to be able to be a lot of money that you can buy other modalities as you go through. And you can increase your business. If you have the cash, and you could burn $100,000 pretty simply by building it out and building some stuff. So on a budget model, if you already have a space, if you already got a little clinic, and a Firefly is $27,000, you add this to your portfolio of things that you do, or a Hawkett oxygen, the ozone therapy machine and things like that. They're amazing things that have huge effect, beneficial to many, many different diseases and sicknesses and just promoting general health, right? So doesn't have to be expensive. Doesn't have to be $1 million. Can most certainly be, right? And what we're finding is when I go to towns and we've got a group that want to build a clinic, I've gone there and in my speech, I've challenged the audience to get up off their butts, people with money, take your money out of an investment you have that's not productive for you that you need to do. And if you feel it necessary, you can, and you can pull money out or put money into this, then help those people build a clinic. And it's been pretty successful. We've had a few of them come up and say, okay, here, I've got some money. Here, I've got a property I'm going to do an exchange on, so we can get you a property, right? And that's come out of the woodwork for that, which is awesome. And that's what we need to do, right? Today, we have a couple investment things that have come about that have been put together where we're going to have companies that are PMAs that are going to have, and they're basically getting donations and more than that, they're getting investments from the public to be able to take and, well, from private members of their association, but to take and be able to have a fund to be able to fund clinics and do these types of things and to be able to lend people money to go start a clinic.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's very amazing.
Now, do you have, I mean, I'm with you, like, I haven't had a primary care physician for over 10 years because I don't go there. And if anything, like you said, stitches or bones.
Yeah.
But, you know, these are some of the questions that people, well, some of the people who with concerns, valid concerns, but it's like, what about emergency services? So is that something like, so instead of going to, I guess, the emergency room near me, I would go to the clinic near me and I would already have that programmed into my phone or mapping system or address. But it's just like changing location, voting with our feet, voting with our dollars, and going to where true healing and helping and services, rather than going to places where they're just trying to get us addicted and raise our insurance premiums. And is that kind of the decision that people are like, okay, we're going to your health clinic or network, even if there's not a network there, but there's a clinic somewhere nearby, and that's where you're kind of guiding people.
But the clinics are for maintenance and basically not for emergency situations, right? But like in Boise, that group out there, they're actually building an emergency outcare patient facility. Right. So, and we have other places that are doing that. And there's other facilities just like that are already freedom facilities around the country. So that network is out there. It's growing. One of the things we're going to do is get these functional photonic centers up. And my dream is to build a very, very healthy outpatient care facility where we're there for, broken bones and stitches, emergency colds to basically supplement us needing to go to the hospital, right? It'll have everything that has except for the beds, right? We'll have surgeons there. We'll have all those things. All those people can be there to help without the bed and some of the other pieces and parts. So our ultimate goal is to buy a few hospitals that are already set up that, we're going to see this shift that they put on us with our new parallel society, this shift that they've done. We're going to see some hospitals struggling next couple of years as we start shifting these people over into these freedom centers. They're going to have some issues. We're going to see some insurance companies having some issues in the next few years because doctors are getting off of them, right? They're starting to cut that away in that cycle and go to cash from people. And in cash, having Medishares, people can pay for a Medishare and then they can pay for cash and then being reimbursed by the Medishare, which is a pretty amazing thing to happen. So it's perfect timing, perfect scenario to have a Medishare and all those things that they all just kind of roll together, they're all in one.
Yeah. Well, that's really incredible because Medishare, I'm not familiar with that term, but I'm familiar with the concept of like cost sharing. Maybe you can share a little bit. Yeah, share a little bit what that is.
Yeah, you bet. So pretty much for ours, and it's the Healing Hub Renegade Nation, it's a medical co-share. And what happens is like, okay, so you and I, we get off the insurance, piece of it with no more insurance. And then we join this Medishare. We have a dollar amount that's our donation, our money that we put in for whatever plan we picked. And let's just use arbitrarily $500, right? So it's $500 a month, and it goes into this big old pool of money. And there's 1,000 people in there, right? And then everybody's putting in, let's just use math, easy, $500 a piece a month across the board. So this money goes in this big pool, and then Joe down the street gets sick. And you and I didn't get sick, so we don't need to go pull any money out of our draw. We don't use any of that money. Joe gets sick, and Sue gets sick, and Harry gets sick. and then they go to the doctor, and then if anything is over their limit, right, they have a limit, a threshold that is their portion or their payment in it, and then anything that goes over that, and that is now going to be covered by the co-share. So if it's you go in and you broke an arm and it's $10,000 in your limit, or your contribution is $1,000, then you spend your $1,000 and everything after that they take care of. It's done. So you don't have to pay that whole $10,000. And it's not in insurance. It's different, but it's an alternative to insurance, right? So dump the insurance, get on a co-share. It's cheaper. It's way cheaper than having an insurance policy today. And I haven't had a typical insurance policy for a long, long time. And probably the last one I had was in 2008. And at that point in time, I was working for a company, a big company, and my medical insurance for myself and my family was $1,800 a month. That was in 2008. 1,800.
These guys are making a killing, man.
Oh, I was ridiculous.
I'm a former health insurance broker, maybe about 10 years ago. And yeah, the people I work with were really nice people, and they're making a lot of money. And I saw an internal Blue Shield report, and this is, I think, 2008-ish. But they said the 3 causes for increasing premiums for health insurance was that the lowest was hospital fees, doctor fees, but it was like 85% caused by prescription drug costs.
Oh my gosh.
So you can see out there, everyone, that there's a giant money-making scheme, racketeering on making people sick, charging them. Insurance money makes a lot of money. Now, voluntary insurance isn't evil on its face, in my opinion, but anything that's good, when the state gets involved and big banksters, they're like, man, how can we just make all the money we can and violate morality and people's values and all these things? That's what they're saying. But they're like, let's just make a lot of money. Who cares, where the chips fall?
Yeah.
So that's a great point. So these are the solutions, my friends, out there, is to create them for yourself. And just like with this MediShare, it's all about risk and benefit. So insurance is the same way. Wherever you choose to live, whatever you choose to work, what we're trying to do is increase the benefit of a healthy, free society, a free community, free individuals. And we are building that by realizing we have to do it. There is no superhero coming. There is nobody in a white horse. And, this is a way they distract us and disempower you, because what we believe here on the Freedom Lovers Show, Mike, is that you are a king. I'm a king. There's queens out there, and we're all equal. And you own your body. I own my body. Nobody's allowed to use force, coercion, or intimidation against us to get their way or force us to do a contract. And so this is the starting position. And now we're learning by all these revelations with you and the public and the private and the commerce stuff with right to travel. It's like, what's going on here, guys? Is this some huge deception been going on for a few decades and generations? Yes, it is.
It is.
So what
indeed.
do we do? Yeah, do we knock on the door? Hey, please give us back our freedom. Or do free people exercise freedom, and instead of begging it from anybody else, we exercise it? And that's what you're doing. You gave us a good amount of time, sir. I thank you. And hopefully we can have you back on to address other questions as we evolve in our own consciousness and, follow what you're doing on the Renegade nation.org. Is there any final words you might have for somebody out there who is still thinking that, this is just going to clear up in a few months, and that it's not going to be some big, catastrophic event in the future? But we got to get through the eye of the storm, and it's got to be difficult. So what would you share with somebody who's kind of still on the fence about getting into action, taking control of their life and their world and their family, and actually moving the ball a little bit for their generation? Anything to say to some of the people who are kind of indecisive about what team they're on and what we're all playing for?
You bet. So we're kind of right now with midterms coming up. We're in the abused girlfriend syndrome, right? That's the stage we're in right now, politically. And with whether they released the noose from our neck to give us a little bit of oxygen until they pull pretty hard on it. And it's going to happen fast, whether you believe it or not. History repeats itself, and that's what they do all the time. And dang well that where we're at today, there's still 100+ million people that are not vaccinated. They're coming after us still, and they're going to do whatever they can to do that. And they're going to continue to lock things down. We can fly again, right, for who knows how long. which is pretty interesting. And my wife and I, we don't wear masks, so we've been driving everywhere we go. We just got home from a 1 month long trip, went all the way to Iowa and through Texas and everywhere else, and we had a few speaking engagements. And it's going to be neat to be able to fly again at some point here. And I'm just worried about now. I'm going to fly somewhere. I'm going to go speak at the Red Pill Expo in July on the 9th and 10th, and then I'm going to get out there. I'm going to fly out there, and then they're going to take it away. I'm going to have to buy a car and then drive it home and sell it, because I'm not getting back on an airplane. I'm not going to with a mask. I'm not going to wear a mask. So, and I figured that'd be better than renting a car and losing all the money. I'll just buy something over there and then bring it over here and sell it. So, it's stupid. It's really stupid.
Right.
And there's more ahead, guys. There's a lot more trickery coming along. They've been doing this for a long time. Their plan, they might release that news for a little while, might be a month, two, might be a year. They're coming back at us. And it's going to come back hard.
I agree. They didn't do this whole last 2 years to back up now.
No.
One of my friends, Ernest Hancock, says it's like they're hitting you with the hammer, and like they hit us, and now the hammer's going back up, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it's over. And it's like, yeah, I don't think it is. So I think it's coming back down again. This is not to provide you any type of gloom out there, my friends, but to help prepare you, because if you know a storm is coming, then you might want to prepare. And that's what you're doing, is you're creating the clinics that you want, the grocery stores that you want. I can't wait when I'm back in California. I want to go maybe do a little tour of your grocery store and let people get a feel for it, because it's like, this is awesome. Like, these people know what time it is. And if you're all around the country already, you're in high demand. So if there's any other future visionary entrepreneurs out there like Mike, then get on this train, because where we're going is a freer world, a more peaceful, more loving world, where we understand the financial interests, we understand the political interests, and we just want to be left alone. So there's two teams that are forming. It feels like the people that want to be left alone and the people who are not going to leave us alone. They're trying to push us into their agenda. And, I'm not going to get their chip when it comes out. And, it's like, you probably shouldn't either. This is like, they're trying to get rid of the human consciousness. But I think they know that they're toast. I think they know that they can't stop the force of love and goodness and compassion and maybe source or God or something, where it's like, this is a rising energy that will not be put down. You mentioned the Red Pill Expo. There's Porcupine Freedom Festival. There's Float Fest. There's Jackalope Freedom Festival. There's Midland. There's a bunch of freedom festivals going on. It's like, well, why would we have to have a freedom event or freedom festival in the free country? Because we've been lied to, my friends. It's a police state. They've been parasiting us for a long time. We didn't even get to talk about property taxes. So we'll talk about that maybe next time, because it's just unacceptable down here in Texas, over 2% property taxes. You can pay off your house.
We can get you out of that. It's a very simple deal. You want to get out of property taxes, give me a call. We'll help you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's easy to do. We talked about a lot of neat things today and what we're doing. And I really truly believe that, PMAs are necessary today to be able to continue our businesses to not only survive, but thrive, right? We need that piece of it. The Healing Hub is great because we need to be able to have medical places for people to go. My main thing with the Renegade Nation, and my main dream and goal of the Renegade Nation is, it's a database and directory of businesses, freedom businesses across the country. It's a training ground in every discipline of life that you can think of. But my main goal for it is, basically, we want to create a new political party. And because we can't go in there and fight the Democrats and the Republicans, it's never going to happen. We'll never be able to infiltrate those parties. It's never going to happen. I don't care how many people we got going, it won't work. We start a new party, and we put our 150 million people in there, and we start taking the vote in every single little town across the country, every big city, every state, back in the federal government. And I think it's a 5 to 10 year period of time, and we can have this country ran politically with conservative people across the country again. I think that's what it takes. That's kind of what they did to us. They just kind of snowballed us over a period of time, because this was a conservative country, not too long ago. So I think we just do it back to them.
Good. Well, I love the vision that you have and the actions you're taking, sir. I mean, a lot of respect and sincere admiration for what you're doing. So I want people to know that there are shining stars out there. Mike Collumb is one of them. And so are you, the man and woman out there watching this. Don't think that he's a superstar. He has some amazing power. He's put in some work. He's learned. He's, paid his dues, got the knowledge and the research and application and learned lessons and pain and suffering and success and all these things. And so you can too. We're all basically on the hero's journey, in my opinion. And we're somewhere in this cycle of separation, initiation, and returning back to the village. And so thankfully, Mike's takes some time to share with us how he's contributing for future generations. So glad you have so many kids and grandkids. There is a concept that I spoke about here at Float Fest, what's called intergenerational freedom, or building intergenerational freedom communities. And I think this is where I get a lot of hope, a lot of optimism, despite the challenges which are coming and are here. The benefit and the silver line is that we get to meet, the people get to meet throughout this state of California and this country and this world, and realize we're all one human family, and good people just want peace and connection with each other. We don't want to use coercion against anybody. We want to just be left alone and raise our kids and grandkids in peace and harmony. And it's just incredible to know that there's men and women out there like yourself and your wife and your family, I imagine, and all the community that you're building out there. So we're grateful that you can spend some time with us. We look forward to visiting your grocery store, going to the clinics, going
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, the Renegade Nation and Healthy Hub Network, and then duplicating it. You said earlier, it's like a turnkey model. My friends, this is called like a franchise model, just like when you go to McDonald's, or used to go to McDonald's. After you don't go there no more. But fries are on the left, and this is in all of them. So I think that model is going to be highly successful, and I'll assist however I can, and connect and get you out there, because this is a real solution, my friends. The exit their system, build our own system, or build our own services and products, and step into this gift of life, which is to build, to design, to create, to learn, to make mistakes, and everything is okay. Instead of this world where you're tracked by your credit score. And we did a right to travel course called Don't Fear the DMV. And I found out there's over 22 states right now that are floating the idea of connecting the driver's license to the social credit score, the medical information, financial information. So the vaccine, this agenda and the scamdemic seems to be about the identification and getting you to permanently identify as a citizen or part of the state, rather than the living man, the living woman. And so maybe for the last 1 minute, and I'll let you go here, you can give us a teaser on the property tax solution, and then maybe we can come back and talk about that another time in depth.
Oh yeah, you bet. It's so simple. And there's, right now we're working with a guy out of Oregon and we're looking to help him put his program out to get your low deal title back, right? To get your land patent, which is a really good thing to do, right? So, and then that's one way to protect your property. There's multiple things to do, right? You protect your person, by being a state national. You protect your business by putting it into a PMA, basically a church, ministry PMA, and then you can protect your property as well. But inside of a church ministry PMA, we can take a business or a person, a farm, and we can have you set you up in that, and then we can actually have you take and do a quitclaim deed on your property. Get it named in the name of your church, and then take it down, get it put into the system, right? So it's going to go into the system, and then you get a copy of that and you take it back over to the tax office, and you can actually have it removed from the tax rolls. Churches don't need to pay property tax, and our statutes inside the IRS give us the ability to be churches all day long, every day, across the board. They don't have the power to say we cannot. We are allowed to build churches on our own. The church isn't a brick and mortar. The church is the people. And my God in my Bible told me to go out to the community everywhere, to go out to the world and talk about the Lord. And that's what we do every single day. And my churches are churches, and we're building those churches, and we're building other people's churches, and we're helping them build more churches. So in a church, you don't need to pay property tax. You be gone. You don't need to pay income tax. You don't have to pay federal or state. You don't have to charge sales tax. All these things are huge when you're talking about running a business any way you want to do it. And every business, and any business for the most part, can be a church. And people say, well, I'm a doctor. How do I really get to become a church, right? So if it's your passion, and you're willing to be a minister in that church and that in your business for your passion, then you can be a church. There's a guideline the IRS puts out. It's very easy to adhere by. And if you can do that, then you can have a church. And it's as simple as that. It's fast, effective, it's inexpensive, and it lasts and it works. So, and I want to see millions of them across the country in the next few years.
Yes, let's do it. Let's co-create together. The last point here, and I'll let you go, is this country was founded on religious freedom. brothers and sisters and ladies and gentlemen, the people got on boats and would stay on the boat and risk their life and limb and everything for months at a time to get from Europe to here, just so they could worship God in their own way. And so you got to understand the significance of that is that they risk their life to believe how they want to believe. And guess what? You can believe how you want to believe. And there's all these different sects and all these different religions. And we, I think, all agree that they're all free to believe what they want as long as they don't use coercion against peaceful people and force themselves on other people. This is a Christian nation, and there's a lot of wisdom in Jesus and powerful stuff, forgiveness and compassion. And if that's not your jam out there, my friends, that's okay. But you got to allow other people to believe whatever they want. If they want to believe in Scientology or nothing at all, or whatever there is out there, and this is their right as a human, as a brother or sister human. They can believe as long as they don't use force or coercion. So I want to leave you with that. Thank you for this great interview. And is there any requests you have from the audience at all? Anything that they can do to help you aside than going and registering at renegadenation.org, or maybe something else?
All those things together, but do this, guys. Everybody out there, stop asking for permission to do things in your life. Stop asking for permission. Stop, don't let the guy who comes and tells your business that you need to put a mask on. When and it'll come back. We'll be back there again at some point. And don't let them shut you down. Say no. And if you need help in strength and taught to be a PMA, which gives you the strength to do that, reach out to me anytime. I'm here to help. And sometimes it takes a little longer for me to get back, depending on the flow or where I'm at and what I'm doing. If I'm traveling, it's a little slower, but I'll always return a phone call, always return a text, and I'll always return an email. So reach out anytime you want, anybody and everybody, and let's make this a better place to live.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mike, and from afar, Vanessa, Collumb, for being the positive change in builders and creators on the earth that we want to see and are inspired by. And we didn't know these type of people existed because we're not seeing these people in the mainstream. But very soon, Renegade Nation and Health Hub Network and Firefly and all these different things that you mentioned are going to be mainstream, because this is where good people are going. And something that's good doesn't require force. It goes viral. And I think some of the tips and things that you share with here are worthy of that. And of course, the health clinics are very exciting. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Freedom Lovers Show, where we are building a voluntary world, one relationship at a time, one conversation at a time, one action, one breath at a time. Don't try to save the whole world. Let's just start with ourselves, the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror, and take one action a day towards your goal so that you can actually build and contribute to the world that you want to be a part of, just like Mike and Vanessa and myself and most of everybody here. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you, David. Have a good day, bud. Appreciate it. God bless you. Yep, you bet. Have a good one. Thanks so much.